What is a ward in Bridgerton? Sophie Baek's backstory explained. Bridgerton, Season 4, Episode 1 has officially brought together the show's new central couple, but Sophie Baek has a rather unique past. This installment of the Netflix series follows the second son of the Bridgerton clan, Benedict Luke Thompson, who is swept off his feet when he meets the mysterious lady in silver Yaren Ha at Violet Bridgerton's Ruth Gemmell masquerade ball. It's a classic Cinderella story, as the identity of the beautiful woman who captures Benedict's attention is kept a mystery for much of Bridgerton Season 4's premiere episode. However, as this story plays out, we learn that the Lady in Silver is Sophie Baek, a scrappy, hard-working maid in the service of the late Earl of Penwood's Richard Gunningworth household. Though Sophie is tough, it's pretty clear that she is no stranger to the aristocratic world in which she meets Benedict in Bridgerton Season 4. This is because she was raised as the Earl of Penwood's ward. It's a rather complicated and secretly scandalous situation that only got more challenging after Penwood's death. It was then that the Earl's secrets began to impact Sophie's life. Sophie keeping her identity a secret in Bridgerton Season 4 is nothing new, since her entire upbringing was centered around deception. In truth, she was the illegitimate child of Lord Penwood. Sophie's mother had been a lowborn maid who was never named in Bridgerton. She died when Sophie was very young, so the girl never really knew her mother. However, she was raised with the understanding that Penwood was her biological father. Penwood might have ignored Sophie's existence, but he ultimately felt responsible for the girl. He also might have publicly acknowledged her as his biological daughter. However, Penwood wanted to avoid the scandal. Rather than reveal his affair with a maid, Penwood cared for Sophie while publicly presenting her as a ward. This allowed her to be raised with all the benefits of nobility without anyone knowing her true parentage. Historically, a ward is a noble child placed under the legal guardianship of another noble family. This could happen for a number of reasons, but wardship typically occurs when a child is orphaned. It would be unheard of for a noble child to be placed in an orphanage, so they would essentially be fostered by another family that matched their status and birth. According to the Bridgerton books, Sophie was left in Lord Penwood's care by her maternal grandmother. When he accepted her into his household, he told his peers that Sophie was the orphaned daughter of a noble friend who had passed away. This meant that despite her birth, Sophie was raised as a sort of adopted daughter of Lord Penwood, and treated with all the benefits of true nobility. Growing up, Sophie knew the truth about her relationship with Lord Penwood. It's likely that just about everyone else knew as well. Still, it wasn't something that was challenged or spoken about until Penwood's death, that is. Before his death, Lord Penwood married the recently widowed Lady Araminta. He expected his wife to accept and love Sophie as their ward, but as the truth about the girl's paternity became clear, Araminta took a different route. Sophie's status threatened the financial security of Araminta's own daughters, Posey and Rosamund Lee Isabella Way, and Michelle Mao. So when Penwood was no longer around to protect his daughter and ensure her nobility was recognized, Araminta demoted Sophie's position in the household. From that point on, Sophie was presented as the household maid. Some defense could be made for Araminta, since the woman might have expelled Sophie from the household altogether. As a maid, Penwood's illegitimate daughter was at least not forced to beg for scraps on the street. Still, Sophie represented something rather uncomfortable and threatening to Araminta, so the girl wasn't treated with the sort of respect that maids of other households might have been. Sophie's character in Bridgerton is profoundly defined by her upbringing. She was raised as a member of the nobility with love from her father, so she has no trouble navigating an environment like Violet Bridgerton's ball. Still, there is an observable edge there. Growing up in deception impacted Sophie's trust in those around her, and that only grew worse when her father's promises came to nothing after his death. Having lost her mother, Sophie's primary maternal figure is Araminta, who is far from a positive or loving influence. This experience followed the loss of her father, which was naturally traumatic. Sophie became powerless to change her circumstances. There was nothing she could do to maintain her status, and life immediately became a matter of survival. All of this toughened Sophie up, making her a unique force in Bridgerton. Sophie's upbringing could have left her angry and resentful. However, her experience as a maid added unique humility to her natural qualities of kindness and compassion. Still, it's very clear in Bridgerton that Sophie has her guard up. She doesn't trust love or security because her experience seems to prove that such promises are unrealistic. It's no wonder Sophie has such a hard time letting down her guard with Benedict in Bridgerton Season 4.